Hi Guava Bees, and welcome to another episode of the Dear Guava Bean podcast. Remember, submit your questions in the sandbox or on the website and we could be answering yours in the next episode. I'm Francesca and with me is Claire.
Hello.
And today's question is, Dear Guava Bean, first of all, it's a great pleasure being part of this community. I have a question that seems to be going around a lot. Is it really that hard to get into this lifestyle? I have been looking for a remote job for the past month or so with no luck whatsoever. I'm a 34-year-old father of 3 and married to a wonderful woman who has a remote job as a teacher and seems that she gets more work that way than me. I'm a content creator mainly focused on video editing, and I wonder if I should acquire any other skills to be able to get a job in this industry. The idea is to be able to travel with my family and take my work with me, free of that office space. Can you guys help me out, orient me towards the right path? Any help would be greatly appreciated. Okay, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sending in the question. I actually really love this question because I think there are an awful lot of people out there who are kind of wondering how to get into freelancing. And it can seem a bit daunting, can't it, Claire?
Yeah, I mean, it is daunting. It's a huge risk. It means that you have to change jobs, learn a completely new skill. It's essentially like starting all over again. So I get it. It is really hard to get into this lifestyle. I mean, to answer that question, is it really that hard to get into this lifestyle? I would say, yeah, it really is hard. But it doesn't have to be a super big struggle or, something that takes a long time and is very painful and difficult. Like if you surround yourself with a really positive community, if you have the right tools, if you have a clear vision and a clear path, then, if you're committed to it, it's not that much more difficult than doing any other job.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I agree. I mean, I think it's really as hard as you make it. Anything worth having is hard work, isn't it? But I don't think it's impossible. Even these days when more and more people are going freelance, I think one of the biggest things is focusing on your own goals. So a lot of the time when people see, I've seen loads of other people like on social media and stuff living this amazingly free lifestyle and I want that. I think sometimes it's so easy to get caught up in what we see as someone else's success, but often they're not showing you the path they've taken to get there. Sometimes it can seem like people have overnight success with freelancing, but that isn't the case at all, really. I think just basically agreeing with what you said, it's just figuring out what you want from it and figuring out how to get there. I do think it's important to have a plan. Often I think we get also caught up in the idea that life happens to us in the same way, freelancing just happens to us. Jobs are just offered to us. And it does take an awful lot of kind of laying the groundwork and doing your own consistent work towards marketing yourself, finding those jobs and building up a portfolio, most definitely. What do you think? Because obviously I know that he's mentioned that he's been looking for a job for about a month. Now, I don't think a month is a very long time.
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing. That is exactly what I was going to point out when you're talking about time and overnight success. Like it's very rare to have an overnight success as a freelancer. Usually, like with any job, you start at the bottom and you build your way up. 1 month, I think back to when I first started, it took me more than a month to find a good job. It took me, I would say, 3 months until I got my first really good client. And I had a couple other tiny jobs before that, but I would say a month is not long at all. I wouldn't judge anything based on 1 month.
No, I agree. I think it definitely takes consistency. And also, it kind of depends what you're doing as well. Obviously, I know that he's mentioned he's a content creator focused on video editing. Well, that's a really awesome skill to have, but it kind of depends what jobs you're looking for. I know a lot of content creators want to be able to build up their own community and make videos for fans and eventually make a career that way. Obviously, that's getting more and more popular, which is definitely doable. But if that's the kind of thing you're doing, it is a lot harder. I think with that kind of thing, it's almost like a passive income. I don't know exactly what this person's story is, but I know a lot of content creators are looking to make a living through passive income and creating content that other fans and communities and things find useful. But I would always start out with an active income, so finding clients. And to do that, I would suggest not only looking for jobs, so not only applying for jobs on job websites, but maybe start crafting your own marketing strategy for your own business, because you are running a business after all. And, you know, if you're using that time while you haven't got any clients at the moment, that can be a great way to kind of build up your reputation, get your name out there. And as I know we've mentioned in the past, having your own marketing strategy it should be something that serves you in the long term. You know, once you get clients, you shouldn't stop doing that. But it's definitely something that you can start off by doing while you have the time. And that's going to vary. It really depends on, you know, where you're looking for clients, what you're doing. It varies from person to person. Have you got a marketing strategy, Claire? I know that in the past you've said that you get your clients mainly from referrals, don't you?
Yeah, I pretty much get 100% of my clients through referrals now. But when I started out, yeah, my marketing strategy was browsing online jobs. I started using freelancer.com. I used Elance. I didn't have any success on Elance, but I used freelancer.com to get my first few clients. And then from there, I built it up to where I can get referrals. But I agree what you say about adding more skills, using this time. You know, he mentioned specifically, I wonder if I should acquire any other skills to get a job in this industry. I think nowadays having more than one skill gives you an extra advantage. You know, having one skill is not enough anymore. People want freelancers who can do more than just one thing, because then they can use this person. If you can edit videos and you can create videos and you can transcribe those videos and you can write a blog post that goes along with those videos. Like, adding more and more skills will just make it easier for you to find work and to provide a variety of services to clients. So definitely look into other skills that go well with video editing or whatever it is your end goal. You know, if you want to be more of a content creator, then find skills that match that. But definitely nowadays in the online industry, one way that you can stand out is by being multi-talented, by having a range of skills. And, you know, networking, communication, those are big parts, you know, big skills that any good freelancer should have. So that's one place to start.
So I think being multi-talented is 100% a big plus point. What I love, actually, I recently read a book called, and it's not to do with content creating, but it's called The Freelance Content Marketing Writer. And you don't have to be a writer to read it, but I was reading it just for sort of strengthening my skills as a freelancer. And one of the biggest things that she mentions is being able to bridge a gap in the industry. So when you're looking for work, firstly, you kind of want to get clear on what you want to offer clients. So it's good to start with the areas that you know most about. So you mentioned that you're focused on video editing, for example. That's great. You could definitely help clients with video editing. You can also advise them on video editing. But perhaps if there's another industry that you maybe want to break into, you can use your existing skills to like bridge the gap. So you could potentially find clients in the industry that you want to move into, Or even look at it a different way, find clients that are looking for someone who wants a video editor, but also some other skills that maybe you need to strengthen. And that can be a good way of like shifting the industry that you work in. So it's just finding what you currently know and applying that to existing jobs and kind of broadening your horizon. That can be a really good way of using your existing skills and finding a way to apply them to something new. And also, actually, this book gave me the idea of the marketing strategy in a bit more detail. So it's something that I already kind of did a little bit, but like you've said, when you started out, you used job websites to find jobs and find new clients, and so did I. But I think these days, if you can branch out and try and use several avenues to find, potential clients and help build up your portfolio, then you've got the edge over other freelancers. So what I would do while you've got the free time is obviously not only strengthen the skills, other skills that will enable you to get a job, but also to use that time to connect with new clients, strengthen existing relationships, maybe reach out to people you've worked with in the past and ex-colleagues and stuff like that, just to see if they know of anyone, or maybe themselves, if they're looking for a freelancer to help them with video editing, for example, or content creation. And these are goals that you can set yourself, maybe even every week, every day, every month. It just depends on, what those goals are. It could be, if you like social media, it could be strengthening the connections you make through social media. It could be sending out letters of introduction to companies that you found that you might want to work with. There's lots of things that you can do. You don't just have to go down one avenue. I think that's probably quite a smart way to use your time while you've got it. I know that in the Sandbox, we have obviously got a lot of resources and things, but when you mentioned that you wanted to strengthen your skills, there's tons of places you can do that now, and loads of them are for free. So for example, I recently stumbled across the Google Digital Garage, or Garage, depending on how you want to pronounce it, but there's a ton of really useful and relevant courses on there, and they're all free. There's a few paid options, but I've personally been doing like the digital marketing one, and it's amazing. Like, there's so many resources out there now that can help you.
Yeah, that is a really good point about using a few different strategies for your marketing. So if the looking for a remote job doesn't work, try doing social media, try networking, try reaching out to your personal connections. We also have a template in the Sandbox for reaching out, like exactly what you can say to get those friends to refer you. If you have friends and colleagues, that's a great place to start. So there's a lot of ways that you can go about this. I definitely think that Francesca's advice is good about choosing, like having a very specific plan, giving yourself a goal. Maybe your goal is just to get a couple new leads every week, or to get one new client a month. But having a very specific goal, and then that will give you something to work towards. If your goal right now is just looking for a job, then you could spend a long time just working on that one thing and not really feel successful. If you had like a specific number in mind, like looking for one client, looking for two clients, looking for a new connection, that gives you something very tangible that you can figure out. You can schedule it into your calendar. You can make time for it. You can ask other people better questions instead of, how do I find a remote job? You can be asking people, how do I find a marketing lead for this specific skill that I have? So the more specific that you can be, the more clear that you are on what your goals are, then the easier it will be to start achieving them.
Yeah, I personally have always struggled with setting goals, but it's really important to set goals, I think. Even because I think maybe if you're someone who doesn't like setting goals like me, you might think, well, I can't actually control what potential clients may do. I don't know if they're going to contact me. I have no control over getting a new client because I don't know if they need me, or, if what I'm offering is good enough. But when you set goals, it does enable you to sort of almost spring into action and then actually put the work in into finding clients. So, you know, maybe sometimes you don't hit the goal, but you're still progressing forwards. And I think that's such an important thing to remember, is that even if you don't hit the goal 100% of the time, you're still moving forward in your business, and you do learn a lot. You know, I think like communities are a really big thing for new freelancers, not only because you kind of learn what everyone else is doing and what does and doesn't work, which only helps to a certain degree, I think, because we're all so different, but it also helps you learn about the industry. You know, it maybe gives you a different perspective. It teaches you something new, you know, and I always say this, but until you try these things and keep doing them, you don't really know whether they work or not. Sometimes if something works for one person, it might not work for you, and, you know, vice versa. So, yeah, I always think that putting the work in and having, like you say, those goals and having something tangible to work towards will help you progress. I think a lot of the time, especially for someone who's not sure whether they're going to make it as a freelancer or they're scared to take that dive, it's always overthinking. Like, that's always the problem. Or 9 times out of 10, you're just overthinking, like, what if it doesn't work? What's the right way to find a client? How do I market myself? I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. A lot of the time, it is trial and error, isn't it? Like, I've done loads of things that don't work, but I'm glad I did them because I figured out that they don't work. And then you change your mind and you try something new. So I think any advice that we do give, you know, like setting goals and having a marketing strategy and putting yourself out there among like your past clients and things, I think that as long as you apply it, you'll figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. And one other way to find what works is to find other people who are successfully doing what you want to do as a freelancer. So if you wanted to be a content creator, you could find other people. If you research online, look for other people who are doing content editing full time and see what they're doing. Like, what packages do they offer? How do they price their services? How do they get clients? Which social media channels do they use? One way to really figure that out is to find someone who has already had success, and then you can kind of reverse engineer, or you can learn from them. And, you know, through observing them, you'll be able to see what worked for them, and that will give you a clue for what to do next. Like, that's what I've always done when I didn't know what to do next. I just tried to find someone who was successful at what I wanted to do, and I just tried to learn from them as much as possible.
Yeah, I love that. And I think people should always be encouraged to take inspiration from the people that they look up to, you know, and have found successful. I would add on top of that as well, which is something I think gets overlooked a lot, is when you're looking at someone who's doing what you eventually want to do, they're often successful because they filled a gap in the market. So when they started creating content, for example, I think this is quite specific to maybe content creating, it was because no one else was offering it. So whilst you can definitely take inspiration and tips from people on how they made their career successful, also at the same time, maybe look for clues as to what they don't offer. And is that something you can offer? Because then people will find you for that reason. It makes you a bit more unique and it helps you stand out. I 100% agree. I think inspiration from others, it's always great to have like positive role models. And often I think that that's what spurs you on, isn't it? Is having people that you really look up to. Is also at the same time just spotting, you know, oh, I could do that and they don't offer that, so I can do that instead, you know?
Yeah. Standing out is super important nowadays. Like, one way to help yourself get more clients, if you're really serious about freelancing and you know this is something that you want to do, you need to find a way to stand out. You need to find your niche and be really, really clear with that niche. And maybe it takes you a while to figure out that niche, but you should always be looking for ways that you can stand out, ways that you can fill the gap, ways that you can provide a service that people are demanding but nobody else is serving. Like, there's always an opportunity somewhere, and the person who sees that opportunity and is the first one to address it is usually the one that benefits the most. So always be looking for that opportunity. You have a unique blend of skills and experience that no one else has. And so a huge part of being successful is finding how can I use my specific skills and transfer it into an online service. Like for me, I didn't know when I started what I was going to do. I was a teacher and I didn't really think that would translate well into online work. So I started with copywriting, and then eventually I found my way into marketing, which is, you know, what I love to do, and it's what I'm doing now, but it's so far from what I started in. So sometimes you just have to get started with what you know now and be willing to adapt. And, you know, maybe you'll find along the way, you'll find all the answers that you need, but you won't know unless you just get started. And a huge part of being successful in freelancing is committing to being a freelancer. You know, if you just do this with one foot in and you're just testing it out, and, you know, that will work for so long. But if you really want to, like you say, travel with your family, be free from that office space, this has to be a goal that you commit to and that you work towards consistently. It can't be something that you only do if it's working out, or if you only do if you feel inspired and motivated. It's going to be something that's hard and difficult, but then if you commit to it and you get really clear and you take all this advice, it's definitely worth it. You know, the barriers to entry just make it all that more better for the people who get past those barriers. Once you get past that initial struggle and you start getting clients, you start figuring it out, you find your niche, there's a lot of success. There's actually a lot of opportunity as a freelancer, and you'll be able to control your job. You'll be able to get more clients if you want to get more clients. And that for me is a huge part of why I became a freelancer, because I just don't want somebody else to be able to control how much work I have. And yeah. Yeah, he says very specifically, like, his wife gets more work than him. That's because she can control how much work she gets, because she knows if she puts in more time, she gets more work out of it. So once you get to control your time, you get to really choose how much work that you want to do. Freelancing gives you so much freedom and so much control that it's definitely worth the hardships. I think that's just what I'm basically trying to say. It's like, yes, it's hard, but it's worth it if you can get past the hard stuff, for sure.
Oh yeah, I loved like the whole bit about really just kind of, even when you don't feel like it, you still just have to keep just plugging away, you know, and that consistency takes a lot of self-discipline. Like, and that, I think that's one of the hardest things. I also didn't know that you used to be a teacher, Claire.
In another life, when I was in the 9 to 5.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But I just wanted to mention that because, like, obviously I didn't know that, and that's awesome. But also, when you're starting out freelancing, I think one of the biggest fears is like making a go of it and being successful. But why that is because we're often looking way ahead into the future, like the what ifs, you know, what if I pick the wrong niche? What if I do this wrong? But there's no actual need to do that, because like you started out as a teacher and now you do marketing. Well, I started out, well, I did like ghost writing. I've talked about this before, but I did like ghost writing and then customer service and then like VA. I've hopped around all over the place. And like even now, I tend to err towards sort of community management and content creation, although I sort of thought that writing and copywriting would be the niche for me. But it turns out actually I'm just going with what I think I'm good at and where my strengths lie and what I enjoy. And I think sometimes that does evolve. You can't always see that far into the future. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just part of life, and that's part of the freelancing career. I mean, even the landscape of freelancing, as the world changes, jobs will change. You don't always have control over what people will want and need, and also what you want and need and enjoy. So I think it is just best starting out, like you said, with a niche, because for ages, I was adamant I didn't need a niche. And then in the last year, probably, I figured out that actually with a niche that I'm earning more money, I have better satisfaction from my career, and clients want to work with me more. And although it feels, especially for someone like me, I have lots of different talents and I don't like to stick in one thing too much, I still think a niche is a good idea. In fact, you can have more than one niche if you want to, but I think if you just go, I'm just going to take anything that comes my way and I'm just going to wait for the jobs to come to me, that doesn't really work. I think you have to be really, and I hate to say it because this feels like a buzzword, but proactive. You have to go out and look for the work. And sort of leading on to that, I always think it's important to focus on what you can offer potential clients and why you're helping them, not just trying to figure out what you're saying your niche is. I think that there are lots of, like you said, Claire, everyone's got a unique set of skills. So you've got a unique way of helping potential clients. So don't focus on how you present yourself and say, I'm this, I'm that. It's more about, okay, why are you helping them? How are you helping them solve a problem? And if clients, find you're helpful and, they give you more work and you develop your skills and then you find more clients, you'll find that your career then grows that way, I think. So it's always really important to be client focused to really get anywhere and to progress. Obviously, I know that the lifestyle you want is super important. Obviously, you want to be happy, but to find the work, you have to be focused on clients and really how you're going to help them, I think.
Yeah, that is such a good piece of advice. Focusing on what is their demand for right now. That is something that a lot of people don't think about when they start freelancing. People come into it with this attitude of like, what can I give? Like, what services can I do? What kind of work can I fit to my skills? Instead of looking at it and seeing, what do people really need? Like, where is the biggest demand for online work right now? And how can my services fit that demand? If you come at it, like Francesca said, from thinking about what the client needs, when you present your services, it'll come across so much clearer to people. Instead of saying, I'm a video editor, you could say, I help, entrepreneurs create fantastic video content. Finding a way to package it in a way that clients can understand the exact solution that you're providing to their service or for their business, that goes such a huge way towards getting clients. I mean, for me, I ended up in marketing because that's where the demand was. There wasn't a lot of demand, or at least I felt like there wasn't enough demand for the kind of copywriting or the type of work that I wanted to do. Instead, there was a ton of demand for marketing. And so I just went where the demand was and, I jumped into it. I learned it. I knew nothing about it when I started. And now 4 years later, I'm teaching it to other people. I'm doing it very successfully. I'm able to work from home. So sometimes you just have to take that first step. And even if you don't know what's coming next, you just have to get started and see where the opportunities take you and be open to those opportunities, be open to things changing as you go along. And maybe you don't finish where you started out. But like Francesca said, it's so important to have a niche, at least to get started. Pick one or two things that you want to focus on. Try to become an expert at those things, learn as much about it as you can, and give as much of your knowledge away for free as possible. Go to other Facebook groups or places where people are talking about video editing and give them answers, answer people's questions, share your advice, create content that would be useful for people and share it. And you will get so much better response by giving rather than going out and trying to find the perfect job. You can do both.
I love that.
Yeah, you can definitely do both. Like search for jobs, but also create the jobs that you want by creating the content that's going to bring in the clients that you really want to work with.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think like when you see someone like, you know, in a community or something, but when you see someone just like come alive when they talk about the thing that they're passionate about, because they're giving that information and sort of sharing their knowledge with other people, I think those people are the ones you want to work with as well. So I think that's a massive part, giving away your information and your knowledge and helping others. I really think helps attract clients as well as friends, you know. I think it's we're so lucky to be able to do that with things like, you know, social media, Facebook group, you know, the sandbox is such an important part of being a freelancer. I don't think it goes that well, like you say, just to kind of expect the work to come in or just to apply for jobs. You can do that, like you said, but just having those different avenues will give you more fulfillment, I think, and more opportunity to find clients. I think it's a more satisfying career when you do lots of different things in different ways, you know. I don't think you should ever just focus on trying to make yourself seem a certain way when it isn't you as well. Like, that's a whole other subject, but I feel like if you can just be honest and be real, that's a big part of finding clients as well, because more and more people are making it very clear that they just want to work with humans, not just someone who says, you know, oh, I'm an expert in this, I'm a professional, blah blah blah. You know, it's like, I think one of my biggest gripes, and it's not to anyone in particular, but it's when I see just like a website and it seems really generic and the writing isn't how someone would speak. It's just very formal and stuffy. And then you find out it's just one person and not like a big company, because sometimes that's how it can seem. It's a bit of a turn off, you know. You want to work with people who are real and they're telling you why they want to help you and how they're going to do that, and not just saying, I'm this job title. I think that's a big thing as well. So I think it's important to kind of explore how you can add yourself to what you're doing and not just your skills, but what kind of person are you? You know, what traits do you have? And that will help you find clients that you really gel with as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Adding your personality in. If you're a funny kind of person, you know, add your humor into your job applications or into your bio, into your comments. Make it personal, because like you said, people want to work with humans. That's what really builds trust, when you can see that somebody's being authentic. They're not trying to get something. They're just there to give and to contribute and to be, you know, a supportive community member. That is what attracts other people to you.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. I 100% agree. I think being being a person and not just someone who's working for a client is just so important and makes you stand out, and that's what's going to get you the clients.
I agree. Okay, I feel like we have answered this in detail. I think we gave a lot of really good advice.
I think so. It's always one of those things where it's a subject where if you're not careful, you could just spend hours talking about it, because, you know, you want to just basically talk about everything, but not everything fits into a podcast, sadly. But hopefully, I think there's been some really valuable points here, and I hope that helps.
Yeah, me too. So I guess the last thing we'll just say is, you know, surround yourself with a good community. If you have people that you can trust to give you answers, and you know that you can turn to them whenever you get stuck, that will help you move forward and keep moving forward, which is what you need to do in order to be successful. Like, it's the people that stop that are the ones that never really become freelancers. It's the ones that keep going that are eventually successful. So if you want to keep going, surround yourself with people who are doing the same thing. And I think you'll find a lot of group support in that.
We hope this episode has given you some food for thought and helpful advice on what to do next if you're struggling with the same issue. Now it's your turn. We want to hear from you. If you have a question and want us to discuss it on a future episode, ask us in the sandbox, on the website, or using the form in our podcast email. It only takes a minute, and if we choose yours, we'll send you a free guava bean mug as a thank you, so you can enjoy your favourite drink while listening to the show. For now, that's all from us. Until next time, keep working online and living free.
Want to know more about the Freelancer Sandbox? Visit guavabean.com/sandbox to start your free trial now.